Hey everybody, how y'all doing tonight? We're in person, we're here, except for some of us that might be on. Hello to you too. I'm going to introduce myself and UXPA. We're going to talk about AIGA, but first I'm going to turn over to Carissa, our host for tonight, from Farm Digital Academy, to talk a bit about the space that you're in.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andy. It's so great. It's so great to see some beautiful humans on the crowd today. We're so excited to have you and to host you. If y'all aren't familiar, so we're at Prime, which is a digital academy. The boot camp, we have full stack programs as well as UX curriculum. We also do a UX Academy program, which is a Right Track co-sponsored cohort that we do. We'll be doing twice next year in 2023. So if y'all are looking for interns, please hit us up. So just so that you all know, I see some of my fabulous tier 1 students for our UX folks here in the crowd. We're currently off-site, so we're so excited to have you. Normally during non-COVID times, this is an open campus. Right now we're kind of in this super special time where we're letting everyone in. But yeah, so I'm digressing. Forgive me. I got told that I was introducing late in the game, so here we are. Anyway, yes, full stack UX, we have it all. We have some of the space and fuel. We have some classrooms across the way. We love hosting events like this. We're happy to do so if you have any thoughts in the future. If you have any interest in participating in any of our programs in terms of offering critique, mentorship, we have so many opportunities available. So please do hit us up. Please do reach out. We're so excited to be engaged in the community. We do offer, our curriculum is largely, or it's all pretty much except for the first project, is all client-based work. So too, if you have pro bono work that you're interested in getting some student work to facilitate, we are happy to do that as well. So please either reach out to myself. Angie Wong is our coordinator, senior director for the UX program. So please feel free to reach out to her as well. And once again, thank you so much for being here. We're excited to have you in the space.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us use Prime. It's been fun to try and find venues to host events, and not everyone is open yet. Also, one more note on the venue that we're in. Prime even has bathrooms, but they're locked. So if anyone needs to use that, I have a key that can let you in. Come find me. Scott in front doing registration also has one. We can do that throughout the event. So look for these. Also, hey, show of hands. Who here either graduated from Prime or is currently at Prime as a student? Holy crap. That's a lot of people. Awesome. Great to have you all here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what UXPA-MN is, and then we'll talk a little bit about what AIGA-MN is, because we got a couple groups getting smushed together here tonight, like peanut butter and jelly. It's going to be great. We did an event like this a few years ago. It was really good. So we're happy to be able to do this again, especially in person, so we can all network and talk to each other and learn more about how other folks do. I'm Andy Kruger. I'm the president of UXPA Minnesota this year. Welcome. Super excited to have you. I did go to Prime a few years back, and I've been working in UX ever since. I love it. UXPA is the UX Professionals Association. It's an international group. We are the Minnesota chapter of it. Fun fact, we are one of the biggest chapters in the world, or bigger than the New York chapter, I think last time I checked. Like we're way up there. So yeah, local representation of UX rules. Our group is amazing. In my humble opinion, I became the president. I volunteered for the board because I've been attending events for a few years. I was very impressed with the events that we put on. And I said, yeah, I want to help give back to this amazing community. So that's why I'm here. You can join. What else should I say about UXPA? Margaret, past president.
You could talk about our board election.
Yeah, thank you. I did want to talk about that. So we've got several board members here helping out, and some of them are going to be gone or moving up next year. And then we have associate positions that come in to learn that job and to move up in their wake. So we do need some folks to volunteer. We love it when people do that. It's fun. It's cool. You get to work with awesome people and learn a lot about the industry and help to put on these great events. So look to your emails and to our website for more information about that. with that, I think I'll pass it over and we can talk about AIGA and then we can get into the panel discussion tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carla Danuska, and I'm president of AIGA Minnesota. And AIGA is the Professional Design Association. It's a national. We're not international like UXPA. It's not national. And we're not the biggest chapter because New York beats us, but still, we don't have any inferiority complex at all when it comes to working with UXPA because we love partnering with other organizations to build the creative community, especially in the Twin Cities. So we are really excited about this panel. I want to say thanks to the panelists, especially because the intersection of UX research, UX design, UI design, front-end design, like where are the boundaries? Oh, everyone's laughing. I see laughing because everyone has asked this question before. So we're going to get a lot of interesting insights, I think, today from our panelists. So before we do that, though, I want to just say that we are hosting a couple of events coming up. And so if you're interested in getting together with other people in person and building creative community and getting inspiration, we're going to be hosting the return of Cocktails for Creatives, which is just a social event. I know, it's so fun. It's going to be at, I'm going to pronounce this not correctly, but with an Italian accent, so I apologize, but La Donna Cerveceria. Does anybody know where that is? It's in Northeast. The brewery in Northeast. Did I say that right? Cheveria. Go to Cheveria. Anyway, AIGAMinnesota.org. It's free, welcome. You have to register and then we'll have drink tickets for people. So it's going to be a fun experience. So return of Cocktails for Creative. And then next month is our big event, which is Design Camp. Anybody here been to Design Camp before? Yes. All right. I know. Camp and design. So it has been the largest Midwest design conference in the country. Obviously, the last couple of years, I put a damper on that. So this is our first year live again. We're not going up north to the lakes yet. That's in planning for next year. So we're going to kind of consider a day camp, but it's a day-long inspirational conference. It's going to be held at MIA. We've got a lot of really great speakers, activities, some fun surprises for everybody. So if you're interested in getting some creative design inspiration, Design Camp's coming up, and you can find out about all our events at AIGAMinnesota.org. Okay. So that is all I have. I'm going to walk over here to my new role as moderator for our great panel. So I want to introduce our panel first, so you know who's who, and then I'm going to let them talk a little bit more about just their background. I think we'll start with that, and then we'll get into some questions. We'll go to about 7:15, and then I'll ask you what questions you have in general. This is a very casual event, so if there is a burning question and you want to interrupt, go right ahead, because we're all friends here. So anyway, first we have Malik Davis. He is a digital project manager at the Minnesota Historical Society. Is that right? Yes. Damian Brown, who is a product design engineer now at the Federal Reserve. And Jasmine Nakarmi, who is a UI UX designer at SPY Agency. So I want to welcome them all to our panel. So Malik, you want to just start off, and maybe you can just give us a little bit of a high level, like what you do, where UX is in your work, and kind of what inspired you and inspires you in day to day. And we'll do a kind of high level introductions before we move into questions.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hey, everybody.
First off, I'd like to thank I'd like to thank Khan Academy for this deluxe facility with bathrooms. Finally moving up the big leagues. So I am the digital product manager at the Minnesota Historical Society. That's a new role for me. I started about maybe 2 months ago. So before that, I was a senior designer and developer. And so designer and developer will match together, and that sort of reflects the kind of situation where everybody wore like multiple caps, and they still do. So my team right now is myself. I have 2 designer developers, I have a developer at large who shows up every once in a while in meetings, and we have an intern. And so everybody does what they can to put up the fires, so the fires start. In terms of UX, I was actually having a conversation with one of our designers about this today, because I was like, how does UX does it fit to everything we do? Because we work also with designers, and so we like to think about UX in terms of like our digital, but also in terms of our physical. So that these children experiences that will have when they come into our exhibits. And my team in particular, we really sort of focus on accessibility and how it plays into UX. And that's kind of cornerstone for us, partly because we're a state institution. And so we really want to make sure that we reach as far as possible. And so that's kind of our guiding star. So whenever we are trying to make designs and whatnot, we oftentimes will try to warm up our conversation and get out of the sort of like, well, when I do this, I see that they kind of get more when our, when our users or constituents do that. And so that's sort of like the high level of how we like talk about it, deal with it. But in a way, I'm actually pretty excited to be in the room with all you guys. And I suspect that you might even have like as much, if not even like more experience thinking about it and talking about it and using it than than I have, and certainly probably different experiences as well. So I'm hoping that throughout this is a good sort of like two-way conversation. Thanks for having me. Great.
Hi, I'm Jasmine, and I work at BI, which is a marketing inbound agency out of St. Cloud, and my role there is a UI/UX designer. It's been fun. It's been 9 years that I came from Nepal to the United States to kind of go towards my dream, and it's been invigorating because every step of life, I've been traveling from like mass comm to design to UX. And it's always hopping from one field to another. And I feel like that's us as humans, right? We're always going towards the next thing. And that's how my journey has been. And at Vi, UX is not quite a new thing, but like it is in the world right now, it is sort of a new thing because we've been doing it for the longest time, but the field itself is new. And everyone wants to talk about it. And everyone wants to do it. Everyone wants to be involved in it. And that's how it is going on in Vibe. We do have designers, we do have strategists, we do have, inbound, which is technical research, and then developers, and then there's this misfit that is me. So we talk UX, UI on a daily basis on all of the departments, all of the time. But it has definitely been like this flower.
Okay. My name is Damien Brown, and I have been recently at the Fed for just a little bit while now, roughly about a month. I guess one of the reasons why I chose to be at the Fed, which wasn't, I guess, familiar with the Fed. Okay, great. Yeah, there's actually a so, aware of it. But yeah, the design team at the Fed is a very interesting collaborative group of people who, the team that I am on is called the Church Team. And we support a very large initiative for Security Direct, which is where you put bonds. And so there's a large scale project that we've been working on. I have to keep it a little bit hush hush. But just because of the way the Fed is. But yes, they do have a design team there, and their UX team is very much they're very much about accessibility. They want to talk about accessibility, being that their audience caters towards all different types of people. More so, I would say people who have security bonds, marketable bonds, and so forth, but which tend to be a little bit skewed more so on the older side of our generation, but definitely there is initiative within the Fed to definitely make sure that we are targeting a younger generation, as they are going to be the ones that are going to be more interested in investing and so forth. So been a ton of work done around personas that we do on a daily basis in terms of attracting new audience members and new customers and so forth. So the Fed is, lo and behold, the Fed's a very interesting bureau that we work for, I work for. And the usability team is doing some really, really exciting things. If you are interested about the Fed, definitely check them out. They're a great organization to be involved.
I'm wondering if you guys could each, I mean, because the intersection of research, of strategy, architecture, design, UI, development, and as you've all talked about, how the term UX is applied varies. So I don't know, I'm just very interested in your, like, how you've defined it for yourself, how you just define it for your team. Like, have you had to advocate? Have you had to define that term? And what makes it work where you are?
Go the hell the mic, right? So like I said, I started from design in that company as a designer, right? And now my title is UI UX, but the battle to get that title wasn't quite smooth, right? And I'm sure a lot of people here would or must have experienced it too, because technically I feel like everyone's a part of UX. You don't just consider user experience the visual part of it, technical part of it. Like, it's about experiencing the content of the product, the website, or the whatever the thing is, right? And it's about what does that make you feel, the interaction part of it. And then there's the visual part of it, what entices you. So now you don't have just one brain working on it. You kind of think about user experience from all of these different heads. And that is a constant collaboration where I work, because our departments at each stage is like, if you find a solution, why is that the right solution? Did we research it? Did we find it by testing it? Did we find examples of it? So there's a constant collaboration between each department, and UX is just the middle part of it. And I'm glad to say that I'm kind of the middle part of it, because then I get to take all of their feedbacks and kind of produce something, not just visually, but experience it too. And might I tell you, developers are the heart of it. I'm just gonna say it, because at the end of the day, if they're not there, whatever we're thinking right here doesn't get to be a reality. So stop period right there.
Quick questions, 'cause I guess I will go back to like how we think about accessibility. So I started up as a designer before I came to the Historical Society. So I was a designer, and then I got into like back into work. This was probably 7 years ago. And back then we had a lot more flexibility in terms of design choices we would make because working with different clients. And so there's something very interesting working with one single client, which is the Historical Society. And setting up certain parameters around that too. So certain design and brand parameters. And when I first started, I was a little wigged out by that because what am I saying? I gotta find so to make these like killer designs. But I've actually grown to appreciate that now, because then we can really sort of focus on for us, like we want to make sure that we can get taking student content, but I mean it's forget because it's certainly it's not content. But we want to make sure that we can tell the stories of Minnesota and so get it to the public as easy as possible. And so for us, what we really are trying to do is get out of the way of that journey. And that's how we tend to think about it. We tend to think that our material is strong enough and powerful enough that it is the goal. And that we certainly want to build a wrap it in a way that can create a intriguing experience. But for us, with a certain conservative design or whatnot, we can then focus a little more on making sure that most people can get to it. So accessibility tends to be like, as I said earlier, our big thing. and not just in terms of, make sure you stay hydrated. It's always good. And not just accessibility in terms of like making sure like you got color contrast and whatnot. That's certainly part of it, but I feel like that plays into the larger climate of for us disabilities. Accessibility, of weather, accessibility of climate, and all those elements come together to make the user experience. And so then we can start thinking about, okay, great, we understand that people are able to read stuff and so they can see it. Are they able to get to our content in a streamlined and in an efficient way? And are we want to make sure that we're not tripping them up with all of our sort of small institutions. Yeah. Yes. So I'm going to actually put a stop right there. So I want to make sure they also don't suck up all the oxygen. As well. But yeah, that's generally kind of like how UX plays and what we do. And I feel like it's always changing too, because really on our team of people and we are, sweating it out, trying to do all the things and making mistakes in the way.
I'll paraphrase myself. Sort of how have you defined UX within your organization, and what's involved in the whole spectrum of the process, and what parts are you part of and not part of, et cetera?
Okay, so the world of UX has a pretty broad spectrum when you think about what UX professionals do, and in some regards it's become really specialized, and in certain areas of the field it's almost better to get really wide in the sense that you don't want to be too deep into something that you don't have the necessary, like the variety of skill sets that are going to give you the ability to understand what the development is doing in order to talk to a strategist and so forth. So, to be more so of a generalist, and in my sense of the way, I found that that's helped my career out specifically. So, just purely being like a UI person, and it's primarily just focused on UI components and UI elements. I feel like that might be a disservice to you. So being able to kind of be very wide in what you do, it's certainly going to help your career out. And how I've been able to kind of define that process in terms of what we're doing right now. And keep in mind, this is a very new role for me. So in terms of defining the process quite yet, there is that opportunity and so forth. But the maturity of the product that we're working on right now has the opportunity in terms of how we are going to direct it. There's been a lot of user research that's been done internally within the Fed in terms of the people that we've been servicing by using usertesting.com and so forth to better understand what they think about our products. But then there's also the opportunity to really make the product something that is going to serve the public at a much wider level. So, we talked about accessibility. That's something that we're constantly talking about and always concerned about, because this is something that has to reach a massive level audience. And so I think that when it comes to defining the UX process, within my role, there's definitely that opportunity. But from my past experience, I would say that it's good to have those broad set skills that you can bring in to where you can talk to a strategist, talk to a developer, talk to a PO, talk to a content analysis person. I think when you're able to do that, you are really able to start to better have input on the type of strategy that you're looking to go for when it comes to whatever you're creating or developing or making. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you can keep that user in mind, that's always going to be the best case. And part of the way that you do that is just simply going through UX design methodologies that we think about. Creating empathy is probably the most important thing that you can do when you think about user experience and so forth. But that's kind of at the heart of what the Fed is truly trying to do when you think about how we are defining the process for our users and what that end product is going to be.
Excellent, thanks, everybody. You all have mentioned kind of collaborating, and I'd love you to maybe share a story or an example of a time where user insights, user research, collaboration within your organization really made a difference for your users in any of the products that you work on.
So I come from an agency, right? And every day it's like not just one client, there's like gazillion clients, gazillion projects all at the same time. But the gist of it at by, yes, there's a social and strategy and all of the other elements to it, but the main product that we do is websites, right? And a lot of the times it's like all of us going every day in Target or Amazon and Best Buy, experiencing it and feeling like, yes, this is shit. Not working. Truly, that's what I feel like every day. Now that I go into like these big companies, it's like they're said to be examples, and I feel like, okay, I'm frustrated with the process. And we're all, as designers, and especially US people or strategists, we're trying to solve that for a lot of people. And it's a huge burden, really, because you're not just thinking about one persona, one people. It's people from all over, all ages of things. And I really forgot your question.
I think the collaboration internally that's going to make a difference for the user.
So, a project that came through with us, and it was a website for actually a detergent company, and they didn't have anything on their hands, not their brands, not a good website working for them, and it was just like building from scratch. And now the definition of UX for that client was not just visuals, not just websites, not just interactivity, but all of it, right? We started from scratch. And that company then went on to have a digital platform, a social platform, and that gave them opportunity to reach a gazillion of people and not just the nearby locals. The end goal, the end product that came about was the clients were happy with it, the users were happy with it, and it also had accessibility in it too, right? Accessibility is a major component, especially for websites right now, and we do think about that every day, but then again, the money that goes into it, right? Not everyone's willing to be like, yes, I'm gonna pay for that extra budget. But that client went on to do the sales that they needed to hit their goal that then they had invested themselves and the community. So that was a really, okay, something I do is making a change kind of feeling.
Questions about collaboration? Collaboration with our organization.
Yeah, collaboration within the organization. I mean, especially in an organization where there are people, UX researchers, people who are UX strategists, and how you work together from a design perspective, UX design, to make a difference for the user.
Yeah, so that's a very, very collaborative process. In fact, more recently, being that I have a very strong UI UX background. I wouldn't call myself a pure UX designer. I kind of blend between both personally. And more recently, I've been working with a UX researcher. And so that's been a real collaborative process in terms of gathering user journeys, gathering user stories, and doing a lot of interviewing. And the intent of that collaborative process is really to try to find out when it comes to what you may be testing, what does the user want? What do they want to see out of the product? What's going to be most satisfying for them? What's going to be most easy when it comes to their journey? And I think that when both of those skill sets are coming together, it's important to keep collaboration in mind, because it's not always about your vision and what you want out of the product. It's more so about what the user needs from the product. And so once again, I went back to creating empathy for the users. that's going to be somewhat the antithesis of your basis of what you want to do when you think about creating some form of a test plan when you are looking at a user's journey amongst a specific product that you might be designing for. So learning to work within your team and kind of seeing that people are going to come with different perspectives around what it should be or how it should be used and so forth. But you always want to have a very collaborative spirit when approaching this product. Much like POs, they're going to have business objectives. They're going to be the ones that are going to try to more so drive the strategy around, what it should be. But as designers, as UX researchers and so on, it's our responsibility to come up with that solution by doing the due diligence of understanding the user's needs. So therefore that product is what it should be. Yes.
Are you finding within your different personas, different age groups have wildly different like pain points, or are the journeys pretty similar but different within the age groups in
Yeah.
terms of education and background?
Yeah. So there's definitely different pain points amongst different users. People when you're putting together those user research documents and you then begin to kind of formulate your personas around them. One of the things that personas are going to really help you start to do is it's going to help you start to formulate the design direction on what you're creating. So they kind of serve as that fictional character, and usually you're going to have a few archetypes that come out of that will end up being your primary users that you're going to end up catering towards, where you might have a secondary set of personas that may drive another need for the product. But in general, usually you're going to have that primary persona set that really is geared towards what your product should be. But they're always going to have different needs, and that's the challenge in terms of being able to manage that and juggle at the end what you're creating. And I think that's part of the role of a UX professional, is that they have to manage that and see both ends of these different users that are using. So hopefully I addressed your question.
I'd like to add just one thing to it. So when there will be instances when your personas are going to have very different levels of pain points, but Ian said, it's going to be what's your main goal, right? You start with that one major pain point, but it will also be like phases of work, so that you're not just like applying everything at one instance. If you've applied that one pain point and solved for that, and you use it, test it again, and you found out that actually for the rest of the two, it actually solved with just seeing that one, you get to see that result and use it, test it again.
So question, it just made me think of this. One of the ways that you can actually solve that is by developing common themes amongst your users. And so because of that, what you're going to start to realize is you're going to start to see that a lot of these users may have similar characteristics with their pain points. And so when you start developing those specific stories around them, then you can start to create your user journeys around them. And that's going to help better define the path of what that user should be taking amongst your product. So I would say that those similarities that you see in some of your interviewing that you can absorb from, start to organize those into specific types of common themes, and that's going to then help to start to define, maybe how your persona journey should be, your persona development should be.
Well, that pretty much covers it. So, so we don't have many departments that deal with the UX. We have our department, which is our 2 people. But I think it's your question. An example that I would raise would be at the beginning of COVID, we had traditionally been developing websites as almost like marketing tools for our exhibits. Some of them would be a little bit richer than others, but mostly the purpose of them would be to, if you're excited about something, and then to physically move them and go. COVID hit, and we were in the process of developing an exhibit, and all of a sudden, the exhibit planners want us, all their planning for this physical exhibit went out the window. So there had been like years worth of planning, following where displays are going to be, like a brand kit and whatnot, and all this content. There's no way to develop it. So in terms of collaboration, sort of interinstitutional collaboration, the classes started sounding the wrong alarms are going off. What we're going to do? So we all got together and decided to try to develop a virtual site, a virtual exhibit. So this meant working with not within just our department of two designers and developers, but also with education or exhibits. And in doing so, we also talk about personas. We actually develop new personas as well. So oftentimes, the personas well for exhibits with the people who are traveling to come into it. This time, we had ones teachers, students, and parents, all of which were at home. And so we had to start thinking about their experiences with this website. With teachers who would be trying to like find new and rich material to deliver and teach their students. With students who've been like hanging out and have to sort of learn a new way of acquiring and accessing information. And with parents who also want to find new material that is driving them absolutely insane because of all the side of the house together for 24 hours a day. So in terms of a really cool sort of collaborative research part, our UX researcher turns out to be the woman who's working in the education department because she's our contact, our liaison with the teachers. And so she's actually able to talk with them, find out exactly what they need. And then we can figure out like better paths and journeys for teachers when they get to the site. So on one hand, I might think of like a really slick way of presenting information with cool sort of interactives and whatnot. And she can clarify like actually what they need is to have like all the information on certain pages like bookmark, so that she can like send them to their students instantly. And so to take that information and then iteratively like design like a better product for this for our users, the teachers and the students. And so so we got out of that situation having built a product that we hadn't built before, having worked cross-departmentally and having served like new audiences in a new way, and also having sort of saved the situation of having an exhibit that we still put out and produce. And then later on, once the physical exhibit opened up, we were able to then leverage the digital version as additional rich context and support for the physical experience. So people could come in, they can use QR codes and whatnot to find additional information on various people in the exhibit. And then when they left, they can still share the experience with friends, with other people. And so that was all due to sort of collaboration.
Excellent, thank you, everybody. So one of the things that I think is challenging is what people think about UX and UI designers. What UX people think about designers. What the business community thinks about the designers. The perspective on like, they're not going to do what I want, or they're just going to worry about the colors, or if they just make things pretty. There are a lot of things that get thrown to designer ways. And so I'd like you each to share your tips for working with the design team. Because if you're not on the design team, but you've done all this work, you've done all this research, you've created this great strategy, but if it doesn't get created and built in a way that works, everything you did goes down the toilet, right? So I think understanding what designers need to bring the UX to life, to build what needs to be built, is critically important. And so it's our responsibility to say, here's what works best. So please, top tips.
I'm sorry, this can be a fast answer because I'm a designer. So I have to live with myself. I mean, I guess I could like, go to HR and talk to myself in HR, but okay. I guess if we have been in a situation where we were working with an outside designer, and so what we've had to do is both sort of weigh the desires of marketing and leadership. So we leadership might have certain ideas about how they want to present their institution to the public against the design aesthetic of the vendor. And honestly, what we've usually done is like we always invoke the user, and that usually gets us there because as a mission-oriented organization, chances are, no matter how your mission is written, the user plays a role in that. And so if we can say, look, this looks great. We got a big logo up here, so people certainly understand, who the parent organization is, but they're not able to either access the content, they don't understand the content, they get lost and they leave the page. Then nobody's happy. Everybody goes home sad and dinner all the way too. So that doesn't work. So I think evoking the users really helped for us. And being able to underpin that with exactly like what we mean. So you might be able to say like, what they're not able to, they'll get confused, like that involve like ad lines. They'll get confused with the navigation. They will get lost. They will get frustrated. And I think that's helped us to push in the direction of a more positive user experience.
I gotta make a joke. That logo is never gonna be big enough for anyone. There's always someone that's gonna come to you and be like, that logo is just a tad bit bigger. But so I'm kind of lucky because, like I said, I've been a designer and now I'm a UX person. So technically right now, in that company, I am the only UI UX designer, not a researcher, UI UX designer, right? Although the part of what I do is strategy, client discovery, research, and then come to a solution, which is the design. But I feel like from their view, a UX designer is someone who draws and makes things look pretty, right? Take this and make this look pretty. That's their end statement, I feel like. But a little bit that I've come to learn when I try to be in this position and try to hold that title for myself is UX kind of push design to not be that, so that people don't come to you and say, just make this look pretty. Do the research and tell me that this is a solution that would make it look pretty, but still be the right decision. I think that's what I feel like a lot of people are missing at this point, because at the end of the day, the word designer is still there. So the value of the fact that you still go out and research and find your necessary information and make that decision gets lost. That's a sad part of it, but that's kind of the reality of it.
Okay, so
Oh, I just have a question for you though. I'm curious what sort of education initiatives either you've taken or like the manager have taken to sort of spread the value, especially to those who are like, this, like, we're just in it for the aesthetic, like we want to look at certain things, but you're saying research is like the end product. I'm curious, like, is that like a one-on-one conversation, that a company-wide, like, like we need to talk about this and really like disseminate it.
Let's come back to that, okay? Let Damien answer the question, then we'll come back to the education, because that's a great question, thank you.
So the one thing that made me think about this was that you want to involve your stakeholders. That I think is key. And here's the reason why. You want to understand that, have to understand that many of the people that you work with have their own interdisciplinary understandings of what UX is or what design is. Some people think that you just draw cartoon characters on a computer. Other people who have other deeper understanding see the value of what it plays. And so looping those stakeholders or those subject expert, the people who have, your subject expert now people, looping them in at the earliest possible stage that you can. And you don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen, because I've seen that backfire on me as well, where, everybody's got an opinion and it may not be necessarily the right opinion. But typically when you are able to involve those key people who are going to be driving different parts of the project. And have the ability to influence or make certain decisions around what happens. Educating and involving those people on why you are doing what. And I use the word why because we should always start with why I'm doing this. That is going to help people within your organization better understand the value that UX brings to your company and how it can better serve your product and your customers for that matter. And in return, what you get out of that is that you then really begin to kind of shape, your organizations and their perceived value of what UX is doing. So I would say that, starting with those stakeholders, the ones that are making the business decisions around what you're actually doing, if you get them involved and you get them constantly involved throughout that process, they are going to be more accepting of what you're doing, and they're not just going to look at it. It's like, what's the UX department doing today?
Having your stakeholders, especially high-level stakeholders, involved is super important too, because they can also remove blockers. So once they're on board, if they respect and begin to understand the process that they're trying to do, they can make the process a lot smoother.
So let's, perfect timing because it's time for questions from the audience. So we'll take the first one, then we'll come back, we'll come to you next. And so I don't want to paraphrase your question, but it was what kind of educational opportunities or have the panel, you want to tell us it again?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Can you repeat it for their viewers at home?
I was like, thinking about the answers. I was gonna say, it was actually like, they've already said it, right? But to add to that, yes, to get to the stakeholders though, it's not gonna be as easy path as just go and tell them that this is gonna be important, right? It's gonna be through that one-on-one with your manager. That manager is gonna talk to leadership, that leadership is gonna talk to stakeholders, right? But there is like a couple of things that we can do that will give them the trust to be like, yes, this is worth it, right? And that was for me that I went on and got a certificate. I went on and got a degree to tell them I actually know this, right? I am in this space and the whole wide world is doing it and we need to get on this. And every other step that I did in every project, I was like, I'm making this decision because I know this. I am making this decision because this data shows this. Our company is small, so we don't get to do actual user testing a lot. We've been doing that recently a lot, but we use Google Analytics and Hotjar a lot to study people's data and come back with that. And that showed us where people are going, what's not working, and all of that. And Vi has always been an inbound marketing agency, which was a plus. So they already knew it, right? They already do it. But the term UX is so new and so like a cotton candy to a kid that everyone wants to call it, but nobody wants to pay for it. So it's like the first step for me was taking the degree to say I have the knowledge, pushing it in every project, talking about it in every one-on-one, and then forcing them in certain way to be like, talk about this to the leadership. This is important. This is where we want to go. So I'd say, does that quite answer what you're looking for?
Yeah, like building that trust. For
Yeah.
you, like being able to back up what you're saying, education who took on, as well as the research that you did.
Yeah. Always have proof and backup. That's what I'll say. And I don't know if any of the other companies are in that you guys do. So we have like peer stormings and lunch and learns. So we get to share our projects and then we get to talk about how we got there and all of that. I keep on pushing the fact how I got there all the time.
Awesome. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of right now, and so I'm curious if all you time, but from your perspective, what are some of the methodologies for the, well, in either context, that provide the most impact that you see as having the most impact or actual insights you are able
So like I said, we use GA and Hotjar, and we started user testing, which is so funny because recently, whatever I saw on Hotjar and the decisions that I was making through that was very different when I actually did like real user testing. And it's back to that same question, right? Everyone has different pain points, and there's so many users to that same website and same product. But most of the time, we've been able to find real valuable data through GA and Hotjar. And it's always progressive, it's always phased. We don't ever take like the 10 steps and apply everything right away. We take it a step at a time and see what's working, what's not, and then try and come back to it 3 months again, 6 months again, and make that smaller change.
We've had success with user testing. We've sort of done work with this style, so we've actually, and we're lucky enough that we have the people that serve actually come to us. So I've worked in a museum, so I've actually gone on the museum floor with flat drafts or like versions. So like they're like, hey, we'll give you a free pass, you know, if you'll like, you know, don't spend like 15 minutes with us. And it's like sort of look at these diagrams, and they're nothing fancy. You know, oftentimes they are just like printouts, but we've been able to like great data for that. With user testing, the numbers haven't had to be really high for us to really make some good informed decisions. Sometimes it's, you know, testing 6 people, just having them speak out loud what they're doing, and it's really been able to solve solutions for us. So I think when we come to sort of like bottlenecks or sort of blockers, like that type of testing, it's pretty helpful because then we can actually sort of bring those experiences and say, like, listen, this is what happened, this is why we made the decision, we think that that's a better solution based off of these conversations. We also have charged that too. So we've had some success with that, but yeah, my team actually really user testing. Well, it's like, let's try it, and then we'll user test it. You know, we'll get like 5 or 6 people. They say,
So placing yourself in the user's environment is probably one of the best ways that you can get some qualitative data out of it. It's not like, you know, where it becomes, you know, quantitative and you're asking them, you know, 10 questions on, you know, in a Google Doc or something like that. Really immersing yourself in their environment is going to give you greater insight on the way that they feel about something. And so, you know, if you're lucky enough to be able to have a testing studio where you can actually test something specific and, you know, have them actually speak out loud and narrate, you know, what their tasks are supposed to be, and you know, have the ability to actually capture and document that information. That's wonderful. That's valuable information. That's going to be great for whatever you're creating, and it potentially can influence future decisions that you make around your product. But I would say, you know, always placing yourself in the user's environment is going to be key, because it's a whole different scenario. It allows you to really get to experience exactly what they're experiencing, and so you know, actually going to them is going to be, I've seen in my previous experience, probably the best way to capture data, so that, you know, once you have that, you can take that data and then use the insights from that to then formulate a hypothesis around, you know, what the research is showing you. So.
Next question.
I would do the moderated one, just because I was already going to give an example. So I'm glad that you asked that question, because so Hotjar, just for this particular example, was showing like lots of data and gave us like lots of insight. And then we actually went on and did a user testing on that same product. The person was having difficulty finding the fact that if you click on the icon, you go to a home page. And my God, I was just cringing right there to be like, there, you go there. And I couldn't say it, right? But that gave me so much insight about the fact that I can get data. I can get lots of data. It won't give me what I would get from an actual moderated test. It's true, right? Because that Hotjar can back data for 2 months and it could have taken them like 100 hours to figure out that, okay, that's where you click, you know, and it still gives out data. But
Really is a. Small thing. It's a small thing to make the biggest difference. I mean, your example is like, it's one we come to all the time. It's awesome. It's like, oh, I didn't know I could scroll. Oh, I didn't know this would take me to point B. And it's like such a pain point that people get frustrated and they sort of stop the experience. So.
Yeah, I would say moderating. There's a lot of interesting things that can be revealed when you are using that type of user research format to see what users are actually doing. You know, unmoderated, it's fine, but you know, once again, placing yourself in that exact environment and actually see what you're doing. There's something interesting about that, where you see the cognitive behavior of people change and so forth when you moderate what exactly you're doing.
Thank you. So I'm an aspiring designer, still learning. I'm in the certificate program right now, and I'm curious, how have UX design processes like sprints and ideation changed in the move to remote? Do you feel like they're as rich as they were when they were in person?
Yeah, so you know, working in kind of a sprint environment or an agile environment, I think they're still as rich as they are. I mean, you know, see, we have tools like GitLab and Jira and you know, all of these technology tools that allow us to keep track, you know, and making sure that we're aiming towards our release goals during a given period of time. So I think that the technology has definitely been able to support exactly what we're doing when you think about, you know, sprint design. And there's still that collaboration there because, you know, typically you are working with a PO person, and if you're a designer or UX designer, you know, you're doing that work, and you could be meeting with a user architect and so forth. But you know, in terms of the way that technology and the tools that we use right now have been able to aid that collaborative process and the ability to do so, I personally haven't seen a gap or a fall off from when people were meeting in person based on the types of tools that they're currently utilizing right now. I mean, you could argue that to a certain extent, efficiency probably has upregulated and increased a little bit. You know, people are at home more right now, so they're not having to go to a specific person to ask a specific question and so forth. So, I mean, I personally haven't seen any lack on that.
I'm going to say a contradicting statement again, because I myself, after pandemic, has been like traveling all over just with my laptop, doing my work from all over the place, and don't want to go back to the office, right? But there is like this moment that happens when you're in physical space with your team, where like it could be just a coffee break, it could be just a happy hour, and the talks of the projects come along, the process is like it comes in a conversation, and you start like getting ideas and new things in that moment, and that's sort of lost. Yes, we have the technology and we still communicate and the work is getting done, but there's still a miss. There's still a miss, but there's still a contradicting part that says, no, I don't want to go back to work.
I do miss my office. I don't miss going to my office. I don't miss the commute. I don't miss, you know, dressing up for my office. I mean, whatever I wish my cats at work. But we, I really like my team. I respect my team. I like them at our office. We have a table, we do puzzles. We had a big old screen where sometimes if you work up there, but sometimes it just feel like a big old fireplace. So I miss that. But it is true, like our processes in terms of we're like quasi agile, right? So we work in spreads, we use Trello and whatnot for like organizing our workflow. But I found it difficult to replicate that experience when you just come out and have a whiteboard, quite frankly. It just like it drops them up there and they're it's like they get out of there. I mean, I agree. There's something, just as a person, as a human being, with being in the same space as your friends and working on something together. So I do miss that. But we have been at it now for 2 years. And we might be coming in like every once in a while, every 2 weeks. I don't think that it's going to go back to us being there full time. And so, with that in mind, we have kept that virtual workflow going. And also, I guess I have kids and my colleagues have kids too. So sometimes you're just able to like people like sort of like Zoom bombing your meetings, or like sometimes the internet goes out and you're in the middle of like a free conversation. So there's those sort of like technology like wobbles too. But so I guess I would say both, it's subjective. And so for me, I didn't find value in the creative process. But I support my team and their desires to work.
Sheila, your question?
Just wanted you to look over here for hers. We're good.
One more. Please.
Is there any way to separate time from the that moves no longer? Or I can something that yeah, things that will design new ideas in that thinking about all that. So is there a way to do things turn that off?
I am yes, no, yes, no. I do well, I personally am sort of like I have a hard stop time on the clock, quite frankly. So that is regulated by when kids are home, dinner, whatnot, and I sort of take my personal time seriously. So if I need time after work to in the car, whatever it is that I need to do, sort of impress. And I feel like that's understood and people are cool with that. My office is my living room. So, there was one point where like my son was like my Xbox, right behind me during meetings. So we have made a little bit better separation with that. But I think it's a great question. And I would be lying if I was to say that like there is that there is a total clean cut between my work life and my home life, because as I said, it is always there. And there might be times I'll just be like sitting around on the computer, sitting real quick, and 8 o'clock at night, something I might have an email, I might want to respond to that. At the same time, I do allow myself to have like breaks in the day. So my dining room is now also my gymnasium. And I allow myself like time in the day to like exercise, and that helps to sort of like clarify my mind, sort of get prepared for like other conversations. But so that's why it's like yes, no. There has been, but I feel like I found a way to like.
Similar experience, I would say, but the path to get there was definitely not easy, right? Because when you're in the office, there's this flexibility for people to know that you're going to be talking, you're going to be communicating, you're going to be ideating throughout the day, so you're not just thinking about that project. But when you're at home, you're all alone, right? And it's like, oh, so am I just supposed to be like 8 hours straight on the screen and just doing that? And on top of that, when there are going to be groups of people who are going to be working late, who just likes to work, who just loves to work. That's not you. You kind of find pressure in that to be like, wait, am I also supposed to do that then? I don't want to because I have a life outside of 5. I have school, I have family, I have needs, right? It took a lot of meditating to tell myself that it's okay to shut my laptop after 5 and just live my life. And that's something that you will just have to tell yourself. You don't have to feel guilty about it. That's what you get paid for, right? If they want to overwork you, then overpay you, I suppose. I don't know, but yeah, it's all about self-control. You get there eventually.
I think that a lot of agencies and companies and organizations, they're going through the same thing that you're going through. So the boundaries they're created. But I think it's up to you to respect them. And so, you could work, the whole day away if you wanted to. And that, to a certain extent is a luxury. Some people see it as I'm at home, I have more productivity because I don't have to go anywhere and I can take care of whatever I need here. At the same rate, though, there are distractions, and, in this modern world that we're living in, especially with remote working, people are certainly aware of that. So they do have a greater understanding of flexibility now. But at the end of the day, I think when you are able to define your own boundaries amongst your workspace and your work-life balance, where you have a hard stop. At the Fed, we work banking hours, so we're in at 8 and we're done at 4, and everybody pretty much understands that. Since I've been there, there's never been a time where I've had a meeting that's gone beyond 4. So when you think about it, companies are aware that you have a work-life balance. But as long as you're defining those boundaries amongst yourself, then you can kind of make your work day whatever you really want to make it. And that's the great thing about one of the great things about being at home is that you can really have that type of autonomy with it too. But also know that you can define the boundaries as well too.
I'm just going to add to that if you are working from home and remote and you need community, 2 great ways to get it would be UXPA-MN and AIGA MN, right? And you connect it to your other people in your community. It's critical. I mean, everybody hearing it. And so let's just have a huge round of applause for Marie. All right, and thank you all for your great participation and attention. Really appreciate it. We do have pizza and pop, and we have the space here for till 8:30. So I want to give Andy a chance to say something on behalf of AI.
Eat pizza. Thanks, everyone.